This is the Limestone House. It's a house that was on a site that was just south of the Birrarung on Boonwurrung country, which was part of one of the very early subdivisions in Melbourne in 1855, which is one of the first areas that was subdivided after Melbourne. And then in 1935, it had this Georgian remodelling happen, which was typical of the time as the area developed further. And a couple of the existing photos that we found, and it was built by a guy called John King. And in the early 20th century, it was Percy Grainger lived in the house, who's the Australian composer, and the Seekers also lived in the house for a period of time. So there was something musical going on. And Percy Grainger's father was a guy called John Grainger, who won the competition to build Princess Bridge, which you can see here, and he was an architect. And the clients also had their ancestors were one of the abbots of this abbey called Iona Abbey, which is in Scotland. And I designed the facade already, and then they loved the facade, and then found this out afterwards. And so all these things started to connect. In terms of the plan, this is the street, and then the entrance, and this is the primary existing house, which had 2 rooms and a staircase going up to the first floor. It had a series of lean-tos which were on the northern boundary, which we demolished, and then basically flipped the back of the house over to put a new living space and a kitchen on the southern boundary, and then extend through this sort of underutilised area on the south to put a pantry. And so that kitchen and pantry, which has a bench here, ended up being about 7 metres long. So we managed to squeeze in quite a generous kitchen. And there's another number of level changes. And there's this pair of staircases which sits on either side of a pond, which is a bit of a nod to the Georgian architecture. And then at the back there is another bedroom, and then a staircase which goes upstairs and downstairs to a basement. And this is a garage which is accessed off a rear laneway with a car stacker. So there's a little bit going on. And a bathroom at the back for the 2 rear bedrooms. Downstairs, or in a basement, a new basement is a sort of second living space, and a storage room and a laundry, and then that's the car stacker. And this area here, which sits about here, is set back because there's this 110-year-old elm tree, which we absolutely had to keep alive. It's a very substantial tree. The neighbouring property was also built in 1855 and had brick, no footings. Bricks were just on the dirt, which we found. And then there's a block of apartments, units to the south, which you'll see in a photo in a second. We squeezed in, as it was a house for a family of 5, we squeezed in an extra bedroom at the back, which is almost completely dictated by planning regulations in terms of its scale, and then kept the front of the house, turned what was the kids' bedroom, which was this very tiny room, into a robe, and reconfigured or redid the bathroom upstairs. It's in a heritage zone, and it is also a heritage listed building, and it's also on the National Trust. And our addition is this sort of small section which is to the pantry, which then creates a secondary access into what is the lower level of the living space and more of the kids' area at the back. And that appears as a kind of bluestone clad fence, and then it has a roof garden above it, which then sort of makes it feel like it's almost a backyard where you're looking from the street and you can't really see much from the street. And then you can see how the site steps down to then create this north-facing courtyard. and then the new bedroom at the back there. So this was the existing condition, looking from the upstairs bedroom back to the site. So you can see there's really not much space in terms of any garden that they have. The house was on the north, sorry. That's the old tree, and then there was a garage at the back corner off the laneway there. So then, after a quite protracted planning process, but a very successful planning process, we ended up the builders excavated for the basement, which you can see here. You can see the units to the south, old linden tree, and then the existing primary house, which was the part that was built in 1855, and then the neighbouring house, which was just this sort of ramshackle collection of things that the builder had to prop up a lot. And then after quite a lot more work, 2 minutes, cool. This is the space between what is the back of the existing house, and then this is how you circle around to the south of sort of where the living space is, and then that's the kitchen below. And this sort of allusion to these kind of swooping, moving Georgian motifs. It's more of the living space with the vaulted ceiling, which then has a green roof on top of it, and you can see sort of this secondary door that has a view through to the front garden. This is a view of the courtyard with a facade which is CNC milled limestone, which was built in quite large blocks. So that's one block, that's one block, that's one block, and then there's this cover piece which covers all the fixings, so then it feels like almost seamless. And then it kind of has a rebate in it which covers the steel framing, so we could get very large openings. The small pond, which sort of gives it that Georgian vibe. Another view from the courtyard. Then downstairs in the basement, there's these small skylights, which let heaps of natural light in, and then we selected this gold material to reflect even more light around the space, so it actually feels like this very bright space and gets used a lot. At the back, the staircase becomes like a similar version of the staircase at the front of the house that's quite tight, and it has a skylight above, which creates this quite nice moment at the top of the stairs. A few details, staircases and the bathroom renovation. And then we kept the existing rooms very much intact, with the addition of making a hole through this wall to then create this new walk-in robe upstairs. COVID has proved that the house is very enjoyable to live in for the family. You get a family of 5, and you can see views of the roof garden there, the light coming into the living space. Amanda Oliver did the roof garden, and this is the view from the bedroom. The house, it's constantly changing with the light all the time, as you can see from this series of photos here. Same with the ceiling and the vaults, which may have an echo to the bridge, and then keeping the existing house, the character of it. And this is a new window that we added that hadn't existed, but kind of then complements this front staircase. And you can see we haven't tried to clean up the age of it is very much intact as how it was built. And that's it. Thank you.